All right. It looks like we are live. Welcome in, everybody, to our February astrology forecast. If you've been around my channel for a while, you probably know who I am and what my work is. I'm Dallisa Hawking. I'm a fifth generation psychic medium, clarity coach, all the good things. And Scott Tejerian, he has been my co host with Mostas for many, many months, actually a few years at this point. I think we're like going on 3 years that we've been collaborating with each other. And yeah, welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Dallisa. Great to be here. Thanks for having me here. Great to see you.
Yeah,
Reconnect. Always.
same. Same.
Yeah.
It's been a month since we've gone on and talked about the astrology. We're going to catch up with you here in just a second and see what's been happening in your life in the last month, because those that have been following the show know that you've had a lot going on. But first, I want to let everybody know what transits we're going to be talking about in today's episode. Fasten your seatbelts. This feels like it's going to be a really big month. And so we're going to talk about the energy of each and how we can work with it. So, Uranus turns direct in Taurus today. This live stream is on February 3rd. We have Mercury going into Pisces. Scott will give us more of the dates and everything, but just high level right now. Mercury's going to go into Pisces this month. So is Venus going into Pisces. Saturn's going to go into Aries. The Sun is going to go into Pisces. And Saturn and Neptune are going to conjunct in Aries. It is going to potentially feel like, I was going to say, a fire hydrant that you're standing in front of and you're just getting pelted, but Scott's always got good analogies and ways to describe how this might look or how this might show up. So we're going to get into all of those today. But before we do that, let's talk about our last month and give folks an update. So, is there anything that's been cooking in your world the last month that you want to mention?
Just a lot of diaper changes. And yeah, that's it. This last month has just been a blur because when you have two babies, two infants, it's just, I don't know. It's like I'm in a time warp. So I only leave the house to go to the grocery store. And yeah, just changing. One day I counted the number of diapers. I think I changed 12 in one day. So that's kind of probably the average that I do. And that's not including what Gabriella does. So yeah, that's my world, Delisa. And seeing
How,
clients and that kind of
yeah.
stuff. But yeah, still working. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still a full-time astrologer. Now you're a full-time dad of twins. Uh,
Yes.
how much how is it possible that out of those tiny little bodies that like so much diaper changing could come out of them? Like, how is that even mathematically possible?
Well, they're they're so pure. They just like first of all, the only thing that they're eating is what's coming from Gabriella. She's feeding them from her body. And so they're drinking mama's milk and it goes in and it comes out. And so, there's not a lot of like you think about when people are eating like food and all the toxins and preservatives and that sort of stuff, that's why, you know, bowel movements aren't as rapid, I guess, as a newborn because newborns aren't ingesting all these complex foods, maybe. That's just my guess. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or an expert in nutrition, but that's what I think.
Yeah,
So,
well, and my
yeah,
cats don't. What's that?
well, I was gonna say, it's interesting because we have heard from like some doctors are like, "Wow, okay, good. They are pooping multiple times," and like, are you kidding me? Like, I change like 10 to 12 diapers a day, and I'm like, okay, that's good. But I don't know. Maybe some babies don't because
Mm.
maybe they're drinking some formula or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. I don't know what goes on with babies' bodies. I just know that ours, the fluids seem to be moving through very uh, rapidly, and they're doing their job, and the babies are getting bigger, and they look good, and you can see that they're developing. Like recently, I just said to Gabriella today, I'm like, they're making so many more sounds. Like I just I'm in the other room here and I can hear Gabriella talking to them and they're like talking back to her. You know, they're not saying words, but they're like, nah, yeah, ah, just like those little sounds. And they weren't doing that as much like a week or two ago. So yeah. All these
Wow. Yeah. I have nothing to compare it to. My cats do not wear diapers and they don't drink breast milk. So, but it did only take us 5 minutes to talk about poop. So we're right on track.
It's one of my favorite subjects as a Scorpio. So if you want to talk bowel movements or poop, I'm right here for it, Delisa. Let's get into it.
Oh my gosh. Everybody
That's the funny
watching,
thing. It's
please.
like people like I love changing diapers. I really do love change. I feel like changing my baby's diapers. It's like one of the greatest. I feel like it's an honor, that this little being is like entrusting me to clean their bottoms, and keep them clean. It's just, I feel so honored by it. So
Yeah.
it's funny to me when people are like, oh, gross, diaper change. And I'm like, no, yeah, this is awesome. I love it. Maybe that's just the Scorpio side of me. So
That could be. Well, thank you for that update. Everybody who's tuning in, let us know either in the live chat or leave us a comment under this video. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Love to see what city and state, if you're in the US or if you're in a different country, let us know where. Because we often have a bunch of people from all over the world that tune in for these episodes with us because Scott just delivers so much information. So, we are going to get into that first transit here in just a moment. I figured I should probably give everybody an update on some things I've been having fun with. I have not been changing diapers. I have been painting pottery. My mom and I go to a pottery place and we pick out a different piece and we paint it. It's been so much fun. We've been having breakfast at the local diner. Todd, he's the guy who's in charge of the coffee pot that goes around and says hello to everybody. So we're having a good old time in our smallish town here in North Idaho. I've been going through my Uranus opposition. What's up, Uranus? I feel you. I see you. So that's been a good time. I joined my brother's Dungeons and Dragons team and I played my first official role playing game with my new character that I developed. Brand new, never played this game before. We do it online, and I'm officially a big nerd. If anybody had any questions about that, now it's confirmed. And then one thing I did mention on an episode, a big podcast that hasn't come out yet, but I feel like I just need to mention it here because I feel like this is part of my Uranus opposition, and everyone goes through a Uranus opposition in their life. And I know we've talked about it on other episodes, but I was telling Scott backstage that one day I'll be like, this is like the best idea ever. And I finally like have my my stride of where I'm going. And then the next day I wake up and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Right. So it's been this like feels like I'm just kind of on a roller coaster. I understand it's temporary, just like any astrological transit, but it has been interesting. So I shared recently in an interview an example of this. So my mom and I decided to go to church. I will not say the name of the church, but it is in our area here. And it's non denominational. And I was really interested in going there because I was like, oh, I just want to have like a community that I can go to and, of like minded, nice people. And they started like, I think I went to 4 Sunday services, and number 3 and 4, they both talked about prophecy and how all these spiritual gifts are in the Bible. And like, so here I am, like taking all these notes. I think it's really fascinating. And they said, and by the way, we have our really big prophecy conference coming up. I'm like, Mom, what's the chances? Like, I just find this church, they're having, so we go to the first night of the conference and they start talking about, they, like the founder of the church, start talking about how these specific people can do prophecy and that only the best of the best come and do the prophecy there. Basically saying, like, you have to really watch who you get your prophecy from. Cool. Get it. Then they say, so you come to us to hear this prophecy. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And we want you to bring all of your witches and warlocks, literal language out of their mouth. We have this bin here, this metal bin. We want you to bring your tarot cards, all of your divination, all of your astrology. We're going to burn it for you. Like, it took me like a good 24 hours to digest all of it, to where I was sitting in my living room the next day asking, like, WTF just happened? And you're telling me that you want us to burn all of that because we can only come to you to get the real good information, but we can't use any divination. So anyway, needless to say, I didn't go back.
Mhm.
But that's been part of my Uranus opposition journey. What do you make of that?
Well, okay, there's several different directions I can go here. I'm not I feel like there maybe is something there for your Uranus opposition journey, and I think it's maybe, I don't know, some kind of wake up call for you. Uh, because when you use the word prophecy, I think of your South Node in Sagittarius. Not in Sagittarius, it's in the
Aquarius.
ninth house. It's in Aquarius, but it's in the ninth house, which is associated with the ninth sign, which is Sagittarius. And you, of course, are a Sagittarius. And that's the house and the sign that's associated with prophecy. But your North Node is in the third house, which reflects your ascendant, the third sign, Gemini. So when you're talking about how you get this idea and you're really excited, and then like you change your mind the next day, I think good. That's a good thing, Dallisa, because you're meant to really honor that variability of hearing a lot of different perspectives. But there's a part of you that you're tuned in to that because of your Sagittarius sun, Mercury, Neptune, ninth house, North Node. You hear the word prophecy and you're like, oh, that's me. I want to go there and I have something to share and this and that. And what you get is not that. Because it's like the universe saying, this is not the direction you need to be on. You need to be really focusing on shining your light and shining that light in an area that allows everyone to join the conversation, whether you think you're a prophet or you think you're just a random person from the street. Like, we need to hear your perspective.
Mhm.
That's what this is about. And then when you think about what went on there, where they're saying burn the tarot cards and the astrology and all this stuff, that's when I think about Neptune in Aries right now, because Neptune in Aries, and I get into this really deep on my Substack. Uh, I think the title of it is the divine right of I. Wait, I got to get this right. It's
And they can link to your Substack from theweeklytransit.com,
yes,
right?
yes,
Okay. I've got that
the
at the
divine,
bottom of the screen.
the divine right of I. So because Neptune is the planet of dreams and fantasy, but the higher power, it's like connecting to the ethereal realm, to spirituality. Aries is the sign that rules the self. So, in these periods where Neptune is transited through Aries, this is where man starts to get confused and think that they are God.
Oh, and this is for everybody. This is not just talking about me anymore. This Neptune is an Aries. So this is what is happening as a collective.
That's what I'm talking about. What's happening with like this church or whatever that's happening. We're having a prophets and we have the answers. We have the direct line to God. Everything that you think was God, put it in this cauldron. We're going to light it on fire from the witches and warlocks. And it's like, no, no, no. We are all of God. But none of us are an omnipotent God. So if you think that your perspective, and this is me myself saying this about myself, my perspective on astrology, that's why I really try hard to not have this sort of one way of thinking, that it's like, well, this is the way. And if you don't follow this way, then there's something wrong with you. No, but that's what happens when Neptune's in Aries. Like you think about it, the last time Neptune was in Aries was during the Civil War. And and whatever people want to say about it historically, it was about states' rights or it was about slavery. The way that I look at it is ultimately it was about people's relationship with God. And you had these slave owners that thought that they were divinely in order to own other people because those other people were black. And that's the color of, the damnation of Ham in Genesis or whatever. It's like these people have been damned. So it's up to me as God's chosen to guide them and discipline them so that they are living the life that is righteous, but the reality is you're actually harming another human being, and that's not right. You have no right to own another person. But the confusion, and that's what Neptune brings about, confusion, because it's a cloudy planet, we don't know what's on the planet. People were confused, and they thought that I could own somebody, and that was righteous. I am not a bad person for owning a slave. I am following God's order. But
Ooh.
that was going on with Neptune and Aries. And that's when it all started to fall apart and come to light. Because through that confusion of self, we eventually reach a point of clarity. And by the time Neptune had moved out of Aries, it became painfully obvious that if you were a slave owner, you were doing something incredibly wrong. It wasn't of God. It's not what God wants you to do.
Yeah, Andrea in the comments is saying people judge what they don't understand or take time to learn. And then Cindy is backing you up. Each of us has a direct line to God, not exclusive only to faith based venues. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out because Neptune's going to be in Aries for a long time. And
Yeah.
this is one we're going to have to really watch. So, do you think because it's confusion or haze with Neptune in the sign of self, do you think that there will be more people like I saw at the church that are going to be like false gods or saying like powerful being, like, come to me, like I'm the one that can get you where you need to go, whether it's in religion or in other things too.
Exactly.
But Neptune's going to be more like Pisces. So it could be like more religious, right?
It's religion, it's spirituality, it's connecting to the unconscious. The time before, like one of the other previous times that Neptune transited through Aries was when King Henry VIII decided that he was going to be the head of the church, not the Pope. It's me. So this is what happens. We're all going to, in our own way, probably experience some loss of faith in who we are. And when you lose faith in who you are, you look outside of yourself for answers. And then those people come forward, these prophets or false prophets or whoever they are, and they have the answer. You just have to be really careful during this next 13-year period about people that are really sort of hammering home this in an aggressive way that I have the answer. I mean, literally, they wanted you to put this in a cauldron and burn it up. Aries is a fire sign. So they don't even realize that they are reflecting the energy of the times that they are damning. This astrology is fake. It's not real. We're going to burn it up. But Neptune, spirituality, and the fire sign of Aries, you're literally doing what the planet is saying.
That's amazing. And I find it like so hypocritical. Like, how do you, for like 2 Sundays in a row, list out all of these different kinds of spiritual gifts, where they are specifically found in the Bible, how each of us have spiritual gifts, but then tell us to turn in books that you don't agree with. Like, I'm sorry, but I think God speaks through astrology. I think it's one of the ways that we can experience connection to God, one of many ways. But I think astrology is like such an incredible blueprint that we have been given as children of God. So I was just flabbergasted. But anyway,
Well,
I'm
the
glad I
funny thing,
shared the story because it matches with Neptune and Aries.
yes, and the funny thing about religion, specifically Christianity and astrology, is what were the three wise men doing? Looking at the stars. That's how they knew that Jesus was born. So they were literally following the stars and whatever the stars were telling them that gave them the wisdom to understand that this special person had just been born. I always tell Christian people, I'm like, who created the planets and stars? God. Okay, well, all I'm doing is looking at where they are and trying to make sense of what it means. If you don't think it means anything, then that is fine to you. But you can't tell me that it means nothing because I see great meaning in it. And the people that I share it with, they also see that great meaning. You don't have to understand it or know anything about it, but you obviously don't know anything about it because you're judging it from that perspective, like the other person in the comments said. You're judging something, you don't have an understanding of what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, I'm glad we went down a little bit of a divergence in the pathway. But yeah, I think it's important to add that to the conversation. I felt nudged to bring it up. Now I know why. Of course, follow the hunches. So let's jump in now to Uranus direct in Taurus today. So it was in Gemini, excuse me, it was in Taurus, peaked over into Gemini, Uranus. Then it went retrograde, back through Gemini, back through the late degrees of Taurus. Now, where we're at today is Taurus is like, okay, now I'm going to go forward again. So now, starting today, it's starting to move forward, moves pretty slow, and has a couple degrees to go. And then it will cross back over back into Gemini, where then it will start to really move forward. But we've got a signature to this with Uranus and Taurus direct now. This kind of like final time that we'll all see it in our lifetime, unless some crazy medical advancement happens and we live to be a few hundred years old. But takes Uranus, what, 87 years to go around?
84 years.
84.
In
So,
84, you have your Uranus return.
okay. So we'd have to live
Yeah.
another 84 years to get back roughly to where we're at right now. So, yeah. Um, so Uranus direct in Taurus, that feels important. And I know there's a lot going on this month that we're going to talk about, but starting here, what do you feel this signature is that we're going to be experiencing for is it till April? A few months?
April 25th is when it transits into Gemini. What do you think, Phil? You said it feels important. What it feels important about it to you?
It feels heavy, but I also think sometimes Taurus energy can feel that way to me because I don't have a lot of earth in my chart.
Mm.
So whenever I think of Taurus, it feels like I'm kind of grounding in, um, or like I have a weighted blanket around my shoulders. So that's what it feels like in my body when I look at anything associated with Taurus. And Uranus to me, it like we know about Uranus through our other episodes, like it can be very unpredictable. It can be things out of left field that we're not expecting. And when I think of Taurus, I think of money. I think of old money systems. I think of things that we value. And so if I'm throwing Uranus at this, it almost feels like a really heavy sculpture on a table. And Uranus is like my cat that jumps up on the table and knocks it off the table and breaks it and then runs away like, that wasn't me. That's what this kind of feels like. Like, oh, are you kidding me? So it doesn't feel it doesn't feel uplifting and like it feels like, oh crap. I've had that sculpture for a long time and it's worth a lot of money and now it's in 15 pieces on the floor.
Yeah, I like that analogy or metaphor. Yeah, yeah. So think about these dates. May 20th, where Uranus is right now, is where it was on May 20th of last year. Exactly the same point. 27 degrees and 27 minutes. On June 7th, that's when Uranus transited into Gemini. And then it began its retrograde. Uranus began its retrograde. That was on September 5th. So on September 5th, it was at 1 degree and 27 minutes in Gemini. On November 7th, it transited retrograde back into Taurus. And that's where it is right now, ending the retrograde. On April 25th is when Uranus transits back into Gemini. And on May 21st, literally 1 year and a day to when Uranus transited into its retrograde shadow, it transits out of its retrograde shadow. On May 21st, Uranus will be at 1 degree and 27 minutes, exactly where it was on September 5th of 2025. So I give those dates because if you like think back to what was going on during these periods, because that's going to give you clues or insight on what could be happening moving forward. These are 5 degrees: 27, 28, 29, 0, 1. From 27, 27 to 127. 27, 27 Taurus to 127 Gemini. So wherever that is touching in your chart and whatever planets it's aligning to in your chart is creating some form of revolution, which could be the cat knocking the expensive sculpture off the table. So, but thinking about this in terms of the big picture of Uranus and Taurus, like just think back to what was your life like? What was the world like in 2018, 2019? Think about how much has changed in terms of reality and your sense of security. It's about being open to the revolution. These last, what's it going to be? February, March, and then most of April, like basically almost 2 months of, or yeah, 2 months of Uranus in Taurus. As it moves closer and closer to Gemini, maybe there is more tension around your sense of security, your values, feeling secure in the world. It's feeling a little dicey out there, maybe. Uh, you need to be open to revolutionizing your values. What really matters to you? What is really important to you? You know, if the cat jumps up on the table and is going nuts, like what? And there's multiple items on the table. What is the one thing that you're going to grab? What is that in your life that you actually do need to hold on to? But the other things, you can be open to them crashing onto the floor.
I would expect some headlines through now, through mid-April or beyond. Um, Different things about the money system, money. I've noticed I like to watch a lot of like finance, economy videos. Like I said, I'm a nerd. And what we've been talking about is something that I had been seeing for a while, which was the collapse of the dollar. So to see more and more headlines like that, that would fit these late degrees of Uranus and Taurus, and
And I
goes
think
back to, yeah.
that's going to be echoed when it moves into Gemini, because even though Taurus rules money, Gemini rules commerce.
Mm.
So you think of Mercury as that's the planetary ruler of Gemini. That's the planet that rules merchants and thieves. So the way that we're exchanging money is Gemini. Holding on to money is Taurus, but exchanging money is Gemini. So the way that we exchange money moving forward is going to be revolutionized. I mean, I'm
Yes.
already seeing it like I go to Whole Foods and it's like I don't even carry a wallet anymore, you know? And it's like I go in there and just put my phone to a screen and then just press a button and it like charges my card. It's like I don't even need to have a card on my phone. I just press a button on the screen and it charges my card that's in the system. So that's just the beginning, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have 7 years ish. The Uranus will be in Gemini.
Yeah.
And so imagine where we're going to be at, you know.
I don't know. I don't know. But like when you think back to like 2018, 2019, think about how different the world is now. That
Yeah.
was pre-COVID. There was no AI, anything. There wasn't that kind of stuff. We have like, the world is changed in such a revolutionary way in the last 7 years.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the next 7 years will feel like we're leaping a few lifetimes, just in how concentrated all the change is going to be. So, yeah, and we've got Maureen in the comment talking about, even this week, how there's been changes to Bitcoin and gold. And I think silver's been a part of that too, and just the volatility that's going along with that. So, yeah. Okay. So we're going to keep an eye out on those Taurus themed headlines. And if stuff is crashing down off the table, which sculpture are you going to save? Um, yes. Okay. So then we've got Mercury going into Pisces. So I've got the date of February 6th until April 14th. And then in that, Mercury is going to go into the shadow period for a Mercury retrograde February 11th. So I would mark February 11th on your calendar to start that energy brewing. And then the Mercury retrograde will start February 25th. So it is in Pisces for quite some time with that retrograde in there, which, as far as I can remember, Mercury doesn't love being in the sign of Pisces. Um, I don't know. I think of it as like, I like my communication to be as clear as possible. And I think about Mercury in Pisces and doing a retrograde in Pisces where, like, taking a double look at someone and going, what did you just say? And not
Mm.
in a way of like being mean, but like, what you just said is clear as mud. Can you say that again? So that's just how it feels to me when I think about the energy signature of Mercury in Pisces. But I'm sure you've got a beautiful explanation for us.
Well, what you are echoing is what like traditional astrology, it says that Mercury is in its detriment in Pisces, Mercury is in its fall in Pisces, and it totally makes sense because Mercury is the planet of the conscious mind. And so when it's transiting through the sign of the unconscious, it's that clarity of communication is going to be a bit more challenged. But the way that I like to reframe it is it's a way for us to be conscious of what is going on beneath the surface of our mind. We have to spend time within our psyche to rewire the way that we're operating beneath the surface. There is some incredible opportunities coming up over the next 2 months with Mercury transiting through Pisces from February 6th to April 14th. During that period, Mercury is going to form 3 conjunctions with the North Node in Pisces. It's going to form 3 trines with Jupiter, the planetary ruler of Pisces, as Jupiter transits through the sign where it is exalted, Cancer. So the last time that Mercury formed 3 conjunctions in Pisces during one transit with the North Node was 1914, just before the beginning of World War I. The last time Mercury formed 3 trines with Jupiter in Cancer as it transited through Pisces was 1836 during the Alamo. So I'm working on a couple of Substacks pieces. One of them is historical. One is how to like work with this energy. But so I'm not 100% clear on the historical stuff. I'm still kind of doing the research, but just like in basic understanding, like right before World War II, during the Alamo, these are times where there is conflict and a nebulous feeling around borders and who belongs in this home or not in this home and that whole thing. Uh, but what I'm seeing energetically from Mercury and Pisces is it's like this retrograde is so important. It's such a blessing because if you're working with the energy properly, it's going to give you time to really not just wade into the waters of your psyche, but to dive deep into the depths, to face the demons that exist within you and love them, transmute them into angels. The guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame, transmuting that to compassion, empathy, and love. That's what this Mercury in Pisces is about. It's about being conscious of, why am I feeling so much suffering in my life? When I look around, I see so much suffering. Well, what's going on in my psyche? Where am I beating myself up? What am I doing to myself internally that is creating this external reality? And when we're going to have the ability to see it. Like I was just talking to a client right before I got on here. I was like, there's some things where I feel like in this next 2 months, February, or yeah, two and a half months, February, March, and the first half of April. I think, or the hope is that we are going to all become aware of something that existed within our unconscious that we were unaware of, but now we can't unsee it. So we have to do something about it. And hopefully what it is love it, appreciate it, see the greater wisdom. That's the Neptune Jupiter expansion, seeing the bigger picture. And, I kind of think of it in terms of, do you know the FedEx symbol?
Hmm.
Do you see the arrow in the FedEx symbol, the logo?
I'd have to look at it. I just think of their colors.
Yeah. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But there is an arrow, plain as day, sitting right in the FedEx logo. Most people don't notice it. But when you point it out to somebody, you'll never not see it. I feel like that's what's going to happen in the next 2.5 months with Mercury and Pisces, is we're going to become aware of something where you're like, oh, everything's fine. No, I don't, and then it's like all of a sudden in 2.5 months, you're going to be like, yeah, that thing you talked about, it came up and I had no idea until it came up. And now it's like, how did I miss that all this time? Because when you see the arrow and the FedEx symbol, you're like, how did I look at this logo thousands of times and never see the arrow here? It's right there.
Huh. Okay. We're all going to go look it up. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we've got the Mercury retrograde the next 2.5 months. So we're going to watch for what unconscious, subconscious data is coming to the surface, perhaps, what we're learning about ourselves, that deep dive, taking advantage of that. We also, well, just a couple days actually after Mercury goes into Pisces on February 6th, we have Venus going into Pisces on February 10th. And so that energy signature feels much smoother, like just from an energetic perspective. When I think of Venus and Pisces, it feels like I'm kind of like dancing with life. Like that's what it kind of feels like to me. So it feels like much more of a flow. Kind of what I would almost describe energetically as maybe like a sextile or a trine or something in astrology, where I just feel like we're dancing and we understand each other and we're gonna just dance here and dance there. So yeah, this is my like really awesome dance move. You can tell I go to the nightclubs all the time. So Venus and Pisces. I obviously don't. That was a joke. February 10th. What can you tell us about that?
Well, like you said, Venus is like comfortable in Pisces, or again, like with the astrology says that Venus is exalted in Pisces, so it's in a position of power. Venus is the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships. you know Pisces, the mutable water sign symbolized by the fish, ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. And so in order to be a good partner, a good friend, a good lover. You want to have the ability to be empathetic to what your lover, your friend, your business partner, whoever you're in relationship with, you want to be able to be empathetic in terms of what they're going through. When you're empathetic to someone else, it should be appreciated. The flip side of Venus in Pisces is, you are going to maybe give more than you should. You might be bending over backwards in a relationship. Really, you're like, I'm empathetic. I'm so compassionate with this person. They don't care about me. They don't do anything for me. They don't know where I am coming from. So that's something to watch for with Venus and Pisces, because we can get delusional about the relationships that we're in. We're like, what? They've had such a hard life. And so, I'm doing everything I can to help them. And this is okay, but they're taking advantage of you now. At what point does their hard life stop being an excuse for them taking advantage of you? So it is good. Let's say, I hate using that word. I don't like good or bad, but Venus in Pisces brings about a greater sense of empathy in relationships. But the flip side is you may be taken advantage of because you might be delusional about the people that you're in relationship with.
So this is February 10th it starts, so make sure we got that circled on our calendar. And is it
And
in the sign for 40 days? So is it there
that's
until
March 6th.
March 6th? Oh, okay.
That's when Venus transits into Aries.
Ah, okay.
Venus transits through a sign, it's usually a little less than a month.
Oh, okay. So a little quicker than I thought. Okay. So be on the lookout for that this month and we definitely will. So what I'm hearing so far with Mercury in Pisces and Venus in Pisces is that the universe or God is giving us this opportunity to practice empathy and understanding of each other if we so desire to go on that kind of pathway. Um, because there's obviously so much fighting happening in so many parts of the world. We see it in some places here in the US on the streets. Um, so Mercury and Venus in Pisces feel like they're giving us an invitation to try to meet someone else where they're at and try to hear it without being taken advantage of. But Pisces feels like it could give us that invitation to go deeper with people if we decide to take that route. Okay. Then we have Saturn going into Aries. So we know Neptune is in Aries. Saturn's going to go into Aries February 13th. It is a Friday the 13th.
Oh,
And
oh boy.
yeah, Saturn and Aries, that kind of feels like light the building on fire.
Yeah. Well, it's the planet of restriction and responsibility, achievement, authority, the god of wealth and time, transiting through the cardinal fire sign, symbolized by the ram and ruled by Mars, the god of war. You know, we experienced some of this last year already. So Saturn, like you were mentioning, Uranus was in Gemini for a bit and then retrograded back into Taurus. Same thing happened with Saturn. Saturn transited into Aries last year. That was on, let me get the date here. It was May 24th. So Saturn was in Aries from May 24th until, when did it go back into Pisces? Okay, it was yeah, September 1st. So from May 24th to September 1st of 2025, Saturn was already in those first couple degrees, 0, 1 of Aries. Now it moves back into Aries for the long haul, where it will be for the next couple of years. It's the call of Saturn in Aries is take responsibility for yourself. Who are you? Do you know who you are? Do you know how you're perceived by others? How others perceive you? Take responsibility for the face that you're putting out there in the world. Aries rules the head. So there might be a need to sort of restructure our self image because we are not feeling overly confident about how we're putting ourselves out there. These are kind of tense times with all the other transits happening, revolutionary times. There's a bit of uncertainty around how do I want to put myself forward? What does it
Hmm.
mean to be authentic? What does that mean to me?
When I hear you say that, it goes along with something that I've talked about before, with this year being a really great opportunity for light workers, astrologers, therapists, life coaches. And just what's landing with me as you say that is it's easy for us or a lot of people listening to this to be like, yeah, I'm doing the work. I've showed up. Like, but we all know, I think, that a lot of the world has not done a lot of inner healing or asked, like, who am I really? What matters to me most? Why am I here? Um, which I think could put them, hopefully, along pathway of people that can help them even just reflect back to themselves, like what they're thinking or saying, or giving them really good questions to think about in their life. Like I've said before, kind of standing next to someone as they're walking through the dark cave and you've got the flashlight you're holding with them. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be needed,
Mm.
especially in these next couple of years, with people trying to maybe ask those questions but aren't tuned into the astrology. They don't know why they're suddenly having like all these internal wonderings about themselves, but hopefully they'll seek out someone or some people that can help them kind of walk forward with who and what this new face is for them out in the world.
Yeah. Well, and even if you've been doing the work, it doesn't mean that the work is necessarily going to be any easier for you. It's kind of like uh you're on your own mountain. You're on your own path, and your mountain, your path may be more difficult side by side than the person next to you who hasn't been doing the work because they don't even have the ability to climb the mountain that you're on, to even look at that mountain. So I don't want to ever be in the place where it's like, well, I've done the work, so I get a pass on this class because nobody does. The work is really taking responsibility for yourself. That's the work here. And when you think about everything that's been coming out with like the Jeffrey Epstein files and all these names that are in the public, for who's going to come forward and take responsibility for themselves, for being involved in with this person and his lifestyle, whatever the lengths of their involvement was. But it's about ownership of this is who I am, and it might not be easy to show up and say, this is who I am, this is what I've done. But that's what's being required right now with Neptune or not Neptune, but Saturn in Aries when it drops in there on the 13th.
So, what I'm also hearing from this is this could be a really big pivotal shift where we're being asked, like, where have we not been taking responsibility, or where have we been a victim in our own life, or victim stories that we tell ourselves, and instead try to point us into taking more of that self accountability and inner liberation by owning what we feel and why we feel it. And we could also see a lot around forgiveness of self and forgiveness of those around us while we're doing this work.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, forgiveness is always a major theme with these transits. And I think part of that accountability is being able to forgive yourself, taking responsibility for what you've done, if you've done something to harm someone else, is taking responsibility and forgiving yourself in the process.
Yeah. Woo. And it's in there for about what, 2.5 years?
Yes, it's it's there until this is 2026, 27, 28. It will be there for a bit. In like 27 is when it moves into Taurus, but then back into Aries, and then or 27, 28, I mean 28 is when it moves into Taurus and then back into Aries, and then 29 it's there for a little bit too, before it fully moves into Taurus.
Okay. Well, we're
Yeah,
here for a little bit, so let's unpack our bags.
exactly.
Then,
But I
then,
think the
yeah.
key word for like you mentioned was accountability. I think that's the key, is accountability. And when you think about, and maybe you're going to this next, but like Neptune forming that conjunction
You
with
can go
Saturn.
there next if you want. I just wanted to mention the sun going into Pisces on
Yeah,
February
let's do that.
18th.
Let's do this. Yeah, the sun in Pisces, that's where the compassion and forgiveness comes in. That's illuminating the depths of your psyche. You realize you don't like what you see when you look into the mirror. That's Saturn in Aries. I don't like what I see when I look into the mirror. The sun in Pisces says it's okay. It's okay. It's okay not to like what you see when you look in the mirror. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. All of it is in some sort of divine order. And you can also forgive yourself for what you see when you look in the mirror. That's a part of your responsibility to yourself. Because ultimately, where we want to be by the time Saturn transits out of Aries is having taken responsibility for ourselves so that we now love ourselves. I can now look in the mirror and I like what I see because I held myself accountable for the things that I'd done that I'm not proud of. And now I can fully love myself. And that love is built on a strong foundation because you've done the work from 2025 to 2029.
Mm. The world would be so much different if we all took that inner accountability and, you know, embraced forgiveness and extended that empathy, right? So if we're working with that energy, at least, the Piscean stuff that's happening now, but gosh, it just feels like we have such an opportunity right now to do better and choose better so that by the time we get out of Neptune and Saturn and Aries, I mean Saturn first, obviously, since it's 2.5 years, but I guess all of that to say, imagine what we could be like in 2.5 years if all of us like really heard this message today and did that inner navigation over the next 2.5 years. We could come out of this completely changing the entire world. Um, so I feel like we're really been given that invitation. So what we each choose to do with it is up to us. But I like that sun in Pisces. It just feels very loving. Um, yeah. So okay, the other thing I had on here was that Saturn Neptune. So we know Neptune went into Aries. We
Oh,
know that.
what we forgot though? We've got to, I don't know if I mentioned this, I guess, was the solar eclipse.
Oh yeah, we have an eclipse. Yeah, no, we should probably
Before,
talk about that.
before the sun transits into Pisces. So, there's a solar eclipse happening on February 17th, the day before the sun transits into Pisces. And so that is happening at 28 degrees, the Cancer degree of Aquarius. It's helping us reflect upon the past and how we relate to the group construct, the community, society, uh, and releasing any sort of frequencies that exist within you that are not honoring your individuality and what it means to be a part of a group, which means the higher frequency of Aquarius is I honor myself as an individual, and I honor everybody else as individuals as well. This is pulling out of that Neptune and Aries fog that is trying to convince everybody that my vision is the one true vision. It's about recognizing that we are all unique individuals. Everybody's vision has value. It might not have value to you specifically, but it has value to somebody. And if it doesn't have value to you, you don't need to go and change it. It's like I don't go into McDonald's and start telling them that they need to like change their menu because I don't want to eat there. It's like if you want me to eat here, then you need to change. Like, no, this is how they do things here. And there's a lot of people that like McDonald's. Just because I don't like their food and how they do their food doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it and they need to fix it for me. That's not what it's about. It's about recognizing that you're different from them, they're different from you, and that difference is a part of the world. It's who we are.
And is it true? Lorraine is saying in the comments that the eclipse is going to square Uranus and Taurus.
Yes, it is true. That is true. It's very true. And the interesting thing about that is Uranus is the planetary ruler of Aquarius. And Uranus transiting through Taurus is revolutionizing our values. So you think about the connection to the eclipse in Aquarius. This is like a thing of eclipse is the moon passing in front of the sun, and it's like burning up the energy. It's blacking it out. It's severing the tie. It's starting over. So, what are the values that you are clinging to? You're like, the world needs to be this way. The group needs to agree with me. These are my values. Like, maybe that's what needs to be released. That whatever it is you're clinging to that is not supporting you in assimilating to the group, not in losing yourself because you want to maintain that individuality. It could be the flip side where you're like, you realize that the values that you have aren't really your own values. They're the values of the group. And I'm just going along with everyone else because I want to be liked. And now Uranus in Taurus is squaring the eclipse in Aquarius is saying, you don't have to be like everyone else. You can actually be yourself. And you know what? Maybe these people aren't going to be your friends, but you know what happens then? It creates an opening for all kinds of new people to come in that do honor your values, that do honor your likes and dislikes. So you feel appreciated. Maybe that's the revolution that's happening for you.
Ooh, yeah, just like Nancy Loves Life is saying in the comments, embrace our differences, just like you were saying.
Yeah. Like how many people are on this planet? Like, are you really like gonna
Depends
try
on
to?
which conspiracy theory you believe, but
Yeah, there's 10 or a million or 8 billion or whatever it is. Like, you're gonna, however many it is, it could just be 10 people. You're gonna try to get everyone to think like you. That's like garlic saying to, salt, you need to be more like me, man. And it's like, well, now you lose the salt. We need the salt in the food. Or pepper saying to garlic, man, get out of here. We don't like you in this dish. It's like, okay, fine, well, I'll go in that dish over there. We bring the complexity to life, the differences, the nuances. That's part of what life is. Let's just let people be and let's respect each other. Let's respect one another.
yeah. Ooh, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. So we talked about Sun and Pisces, and then the day
I
before
just want to
that,
say one more thing about the sun in Pisces,
yeah.
since because it is kind of reframed when you think about the eclipse. Is once you've gone through that revolution of who you are, and maybe your values and your likes and dislikes, and maybe you lose some friendships or you're not a part of a group anymore, That's what the sun in Pisces is like. It's time to go home, crawl into bed, get in the fetal position, and just sit with yourself. Reflect, show yourself compassion, show empathy to the people who don't want to be friends with you anymore. Whatever it is they're going through, I feel for them. I send them love. It's a lot easier said than done, believe me. But that's the frequency that we want to key into with the sun in Pisces.
Okay, so for our calendars, February 17th, solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius that will square the Uranus and Taurus. We have the sun going into Pisces on February 18th. So if you need to cry in the fetal position, that's the day to put in red on your calendar.
Well,
And
not
then there
just
was
the next 30 days.
the what?
Next 30 days when the sun's transiting through Pisces, not just that one day.
Yeah, no, it goes into Pisces on the 18th,
Right.
but
But you
it's
need
there
the
for 30
whole
days.
calendar read for being in the fetal position for the whole period.
Oh, okay. So highlight your whole calendar for 30 days, circle it in red. It's
I'm
like, let's just all
not,
anchor in. Let's just go on the
not getting
18th.
out of bed. Like that's the society that I want to live in, where it's like, oh, the sun's going into Pisces. Okay, everybody's like going to bed now. We're gonna hibernate for the next 30 days, and when the sun comes into Aries, that's when we'll all go outside and we'll hang out with each other.
I
Because now
was
I've
good
had
with I was good with just one fetal position on the 18th. But if you're feeling like 30 days, it's there for you. It's there for the taking. Okay, we had one other thing on the list. And then I also just want to call out the people who have been commenting over on the YouTube stream. We're going to take a look and see who the top fans are from the stream. So we'll do that after we talk about this next transit, which is we know that Neptune moved into Aries already. Saturn's getting ready to move into Aries on February 13th. What's going to happen is on February 20th, 220, Saturn and Neptune are going to conjunct together at 0 degrees of Aries. And every astrologer on the planet, I think, has been talking about Saturn, Neptune conjunct in Aries at 0 degrees. Um, but you have such a way of like breaking this down for us in our lives and like how to work with this. But I think it's safe to say it is something we have never experienced in our life and that our recent ancestors have not experienced in their lives. And it'll likely have an energy signature that is going to be brand new or bring new things to the table that we haven't considered. But when you think about Saturn Neptune conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, February 20th, do you think I heard an astrologer one time years ago say, oh, yeah, we're already in the car on the way there because we're approaching February 20th. Like we're already feeling the energy on the way to the dinner party in the car. So I'd assume because this is so significant, like we're already in the car on the way to the dinner party, like we're already feeling this in some way. But what do you think this is going to ask of us? Like, what's the signature that you're feeling?
It's going to ask you to reimagine who you are and to restructure who you are. And this is a frequency that's going to echo for generations to come. The last time Neptune and Saturn were conjunct in Aries was 1703. The last time they were conjunct at 0 degrees in Aries, I don't know. Like I went back and looked thousands of years and couldn't find another time. So this feels so significant because it's the 0 degree. It's the very first degree. It's like the Aries degree. This feels like some sort of cosmic reset where uh, the reality that you've clung to your entire life is becoming dissolved. The reality is Saturn and Neptune is what dissolves the reality. And so if you were to take your reality and dissolve it, what would it look like when you reconstructed it? What is your vision, your fantasy, your dream of reconstructing who you are, the person that you present to the world, the way that people see you? That's what feels like the opportunity is for Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries.
The question that comes to mind is because there are so few of us, as you consider the whole planet, that are actively talking about astrology and what the energy is and how to work with it. I know that it can bubble up inside and present itself to people that don't know anything about astrology. And years later, they could look back and go, oh, that's what was going on. So you don't have to know about astrology in order for it to hit you, right? But I'm wondering, hearing you talk about this, if there is going to be some kind of major catalyst that is invited into the world that really gives us this bigger opportunity at the 0 degree. For example, Siobhan Burns, who I love following his space weather videos on YouTube, he has made a couple of more serious videos the last couple of days because of what he was seeing on the sun. And he was speculating, if I got this right, his last video, he said that he would put like a modern day Carrington event at like a 20% over the next couple of days.
Modern day
And
what event?
a modern day Carrington event, it's a comparison to a similar sun earth conversation. I want to say it was in like the 1800s sometime, but basically where like it could take out entire power grids of countries um, because of the sunspot, this large sunspot, and how he was seeing it forming on the sun and how it was moving. So, I mean, that could do like a massive reset to power in many parts of the world if we were to get something like that. But it's just an example I use as something that came across my pathway in the last few days where I do think this month is going to be massively important. And it doesn't have to necessarily be one big event that creates an invitation for many. But I do think there will be invitations for people to look at themselves. And I don't think this level of invitation comes when it's just kind of the day to day stuff that we're used to in the news, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Explain that a little further.
I think we're going to see many places, areas of our own life where it's going to create shock and awe. Now, that could be the Uranus stuff we were talking about with Taurus and then going into Gemini. But then, Saturn, Neptune going into Aries and questioning, who am I?
Mm.
Usually, what I've experienced of this kind of energy, there's some kind of breaking point or some kind of pivot point or something major that happens, not always, but then where we go, okay, I'm in the fetal position. I'm really going to look at this. Because when things are just kind of at cruising altitude, like what we're just kind of normally used to,
Mm.
I don't know if it would waken enough people up to do that inner work. So, because of the rarity of this, and I think some astrologers had found something like late 4,000 or 5,000 years ago where this had happened, but no real like significant, like, tying it back. This doesn't feel like we're going to be at cruising altitude. It feels like there's going to be different things underway with, there's more and more discussions about AI and is it conscious, all of that. I just think we're going to have major, major headlines and times in our own lives where we're going to have to sit and really consider, like, who am I? Because major things are happening as catalyst points. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's not necessarily just the Neptune Saturn conjunction. There's like many different aspects happening here and factors that are just bringing about these changes. Is that what you're?
Yeah, it just feels like I wish that life worked the way where when it's really easy, we can just figure all the stuff, the deep stuff out about ourselves. But at least in my experience of life, we learn the most when things are not great or we are up against a tremendous challenge or a massive shift or a big choice point. That's when we really grow and evolve. And I think that's why we're all here. So I just find it really hard to believe that we will remain at the same kind of cruising altitude this month and in the next few years and everything. I think it's massive earth shifting changes that we are going to go through in our personal lives and what we're going to see in every sector of every system we have our hands in right now that
Mhm.
will be changing. But I imagine that most people will have some kind of roadblock or challenge in the next few years that will be significant enough that they are really going to have to sit, or at least they'll be asked to sit and figure out who they are and take responsibility for themselves. I don't think we can numb out like we've been numbing out with all of that Pisces that we've had. I know we
That's the
have
thing.
some shorter terms, but like I feel like we're getting out of that numbing piece and we're like, all right, flick the lights on. It's like you're in the nightclub or the bar and it's like
Totally.
last call and we're
Yes.
sitting at the
No.
bar drinking and they flip the lights on and everyone's like, oh my God, I can actually see what you look like. That's what that's what this feels like.
I love that analogy. I mean, that's literally Saturn leaving Pisces is like the lights coming on in the nightclub. And like you can literally see it in the reality. Like you go back to 2011, 20 to now, and from 2011 to, a year ago or so, like the superhero movies, the Star Wars movies, like those things were dominating the box office. The numbers are going down on those movies. Not as many people are going to see them. People aren't buying into the fantasy anymore because when you look out in the street and you see, what's happening in the world, it's hard to like kind of numb out. You have to like really wake up to your life, to the reality of the world and your role within it. And that's why I say when I think of Neptune conjunct Saturn in Aries, it's a disillusion or the devolving or the um, of your reality. Your reality is going to the structures that surrounded you are going to melt away, and there's going to be what you see is going to be something that you can't ignore, and it's going to require you to reimagine who you are and to take responsibility for what that means. And whether that happens on
Yeah.
February 20th or in the months after, I think it's more of like the months after. I don't know if anything is going to happen on February 20th where it's like, oh my God, this was the day. But, maybe by March, maybe by April, you know, June, July, what was put into motion in February is going to start to unravel in the rest of the year. And eventually everyone's going to have to get on board with taking responsibility for themselves and reimagining who they are.
Oh, gives me the chills talking about it. This is going to be one of those episodes that I feel like we all might want to listen to a few times as we move through February, just as reminders of what the heck Scott told us to help like move us through this. We've had incredible comments. I've been keeping an eye on the live stream on YouTube. I just want to look at, oh, see here. Oh, looks like Ellen, Aqua Elmo had the most points in today's live session. I love that screen name, Ellen. That's really cool. Aqua Elmo. I love it. Andrea Torres and Joanna and Nancy Loves Life and Maureen all had tied for second. And then we have a bunch of folks that had 75 points. Let's see here. Um, see if I can get back in there. Oh, I think I clicked the wrong button. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's been commenting and having a live conversation along the way. It's really fun to see the community coming together like that. And I have to give Scott a shout out. Um, we've been talking a lot about these different planets and where they're going to be, and I know many of you like astrology, like hearing the forecast, but you're not that like versed in your own chart. So, Scott was so sweet and yesterday sent me a written report that he spent time on, and it went over my whole chart and where my planets are and what degrees and what they mean, how to work with it. And on the last page, I think it gave me like what in my chart is doing what, meaning like how are the planets communicating with each other, like the squares that I have in my chart. And I'm like, oh, finally, just like a list of where those are all at. So I can like quickly glance at it. But I just appreciate you so much for sending that over. I really enjoyed reading through it. It's one of those things that I feel like I read through it and found nuggets. And I'm like, I need to actually like sit down with pen and paper and really consider each one of these sections because there's just so much information in it. But I know on other episodes you've talked about doing these written reports, but I had never seen one. And so thank you for sending that over.
That's,
And if anybody wants to get one, I'm assuming they go over to theweeklytransit.com.
that's right. Yep. The
Okay.
weekly,
And you meant,
dot-
oh, go ahead.
yeah, the weeklytransit.com written astrology reports. I think it's at the top there. Just click on that and I will write one up for you. It's meant to be something that yeah, you sit with and you're going to carry it with you throughout your life. It's not like you have it and then you get rid of it. It's like, no, you want to hold on to this forever because it's your guidebook. It's every single planet, every single house, the meaning, the aspects, the gift, the challenge, how to work with the energy. That's what it's about. I think yours is about 30 pages, so it's pretty
It
dense.
is. Yeah. I did. I looked right before we came on here. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 31 pages. Like I opened it again to like skim it some more. I was like, I just need to sit down with this. So thank you for that beautiful gift. And I just wanted to make sure we mention it. You have your Substack, which we talked about, which I know you can link off of theweeklytransit.com. So go check that out. Make sure you're on Scott's email list. And you do personal consultations too for astrology. So yeah, is there anything else you want to mention?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for having me here, Dallisa. It's
Oh
great to
my
be here.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine what we're going to be talking about for the March astrology. It's
Excited.
like,
Excited to see, what happened in February.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, there's going to be so much that is going to happen this month that I think we're really going to have to kind of digest as we talk about March. So yeah, we're going to be back to talk about March, but this is, like I said, we should all be watching this video a few times. You gave us so many good nuggets. Let's see. Oh, I just have a couple mentions on my end. I've got a couple things coming up this month. I'm going to do a Valentine's Day digital bundle that's going to come out this week. So keep an eye out for that. That's just something fun for Valentine's Day for both singles and people that are in relationships. I'm going to teach a group class later this month that's going to be on seeing your own future self and manifesting with ease. So that one's going to be fun. So watch out for that. I did have one question tarot and inner reports for sale. Those all sold out, but I will bring some back later in the month. So any of those, just make sure you're on my email list at spiritandspark.com. That way you get all the updates. And then one quick mention. So if you are a practitioner, if you are somebody that's like a psychic, a card reader, a Reiki practitioner, an astrologer, whatever it is, if you're a practitioner and you like to teach and you like sharing your content with friends, family, on your social networks, if you wouldn't mind just sending me an email, Scott's already on the list. I've got other people on the list too. But I'm going to start doing some collaborations with practitioners in the form of different classes and different online panel events. And so, if you are somebody that's interested in something like that, participating, send me an email. And easiest way to do that is go to spiritandaspark.com and just contact me at the very, very bottom of the website. But I'd love to add you to that list so I can keep you posted. And yeah, so Scott, another great episode in the books. And yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And thank you again to everybody who joined us for the live stream over on YouTube. You can find that channel at Spirit and Spark. And Scott's got his own channel on his own podcast, The Weekly Transit. So make sure you check that out as well. He will keep you updated in between our monthly episodes. So make sure you go and watch his regularly occurring episodes. So, any last words for this stream, Scott?
I just am so grateful for you, Dallisa. I'm so grateful for everyone here who was listening in, commenting. I'm just filled with gratitude and appreciation, and I wish everybody all the best as they ride the planetary waves through the month of February. I hope it's a great one for you.
Ooh, and so it is. And so it is. So until next time, we will keep you posted in between, but then we'll see you for March.